Oh, sorry about that. Okay, you can hear me fine? Okay, great. Okay, so after sitting down for a long time trying to figure out what the best way would be to talk about foodscaping is, the beauty of Zoom is we're right here on the farm. So this is me over here, and I am going to take you outside to kind of give you a tour so you can get an impression of what a farm actually looks like. Now, if somebody could actually just wave to me, or if you can't hear me or anything, because I will be walking around, and if I'm missing something, to just let me know that it's not going well. So I'm going to take you outside. If you have any questions, it is a little bit hard to see the chat. So if you just kind of want to interrupt me, that's just fine. So I'm just going to come on out here. So the first thing I do want to show you is our mountain spring. It's kind of loud right now because it is really flowing. It's seasonal, but it pretty much stays around all summer unless we're having some sort of a drought, which does happen. So we really like to care for this area. And that brings us to our first bed here. If you can see that, maybe it would be helpful if I held it this way, actually. That look a little better? Okay, so right here we have a native plum tree. It's just something that we use for landscaping, and because it's native, it's more developed for our environment, so we get more plums off it. There are smaller plums, they're about the size of like a ping pong ball, but they're so good, and it's just another really great plant that thrives in our environment. We have raised beds here, as you can see with the rocks. And we also have, you can see the stumps in the background, and that helps keep things away from just running off and going straight into the water, but it also helps retain the stream bank, just because we seem to get a lot of runoff from the mountain, and there can be a lot of flooding going on. So instead of it coming over the bank and then taking away all of our topsoil, we do try to keep it a little bit higher, and just for safety's sake, really. So we have native plums. If you have any question on any species, just let me know. So we're gonna go around here to the front of the barn. Okay, so here's our next bed. Now this doesn't look like much right now just because it's winter. Well, actually it's first day spring, but it's basically winter still, so nothing is growing. We have more native plums. Down here, if you can see this, this is all old bee balm that was growing. And if you look here, that there are the old dead heads of the flowers. And inside these, now there's none left in these, but the birds come in the wintertime to come and eat these things as a source of food for them. And they really do go through everything. Like, I'm opening these and there's literally no seeds in there. So although it might look kind of like a mess having it like this, it is really beneficial to the animals that live here. And they live here all year round. So that's really important to remember.
I don't know if you can hear us, Jessy, but you froze. I guess she's having some technical difficulties, trying to get a hold of her, so just bear with us. And you're on mute.
Okay, all right. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry about that. I kicked the internet cord out here, so sorry about that. Okay, so getting back to it, I was just here talking about this bee balm that's growing right here, and it is an actual Native American tea called Oswego tea, if you're familiar with that at all. So it is a native plant. The particular variety we have, though, is not native. It is a cultivated variety, but it does grow taller and it's more herbaceous than the native variety. So while it is related to that, I do prefer growing this one just because it is so prolific in its growth and it's very easy to split it off. And it does grow like as tall as me, and I'm about 5'2", and maybe even taller than me some years. So I just like this variety particularly. The flowers are like a fuchsia color, which is really, really pretty. We also have tulips coming in down here, and I love growing tulips just because I love tulips. But it is one of the first, well, maybe not one of the first, but one of the very early flowers that grow. So any pollinators that are looking for that really early food have an opportunity to get something to eat here, and know that it comes back every year here. We also have a native plum here, and we have some other flowers growing in the back, and it's just really to attract more pollinators. We have a forsythia bush. The flowers on that bush, the yellow flowers, are actually edible on that one too. And it's really pretty, and it also has very vigorous growth. You have to really, really try to kill these things. Even when I I prune them. If I accidentally leave a branch somewhere, it'll start growing roots right where it is. It's really amazing what they can do with that. So I'll also turn you around to, well, I'm gonna go this way actually because it's a better view. So this is our hugelkultur bed. Now ours is very, very large, but yours surely does not have to be. It can be like the size of a tiny little flower bed. But so the whole idea here is to create a very lush soil that is very soft and very nutrient dense. So you can grow a lot of things in that and it can thrive. So you can see here we have these beds prepped for spring, so we have fresh compost on top of it, and it is a little bit hard right now just because we had that heavy rain and it really patted things down. But you can see we have a lot of last year's greens still kind of hanging out in the garden. You can see it poking up like over here, around here, maybe even some straw that we maybe threw down around the pathways if it was getting a little muddy. And that's just fine. Sometimes they regrow and start growing, but we just cover them up, and any nutrients that are still left in the stalk or the leaves just goes right back into the soil. It starts a whole decomposition process that is really beneficial to the soil health and the microbes in the soil. So you have to remember too that your soil is a living thing, and you want to treat it as such. You want to take care of it just like it is a plant that you grew. So yeah, we actually got these logs from a local sawmill, and they're like the odd ones that are really hard to cut for firewood, and they were the rejects that didn't get made into boards, but it works really good for our application, and they were really cheap. I can't remember how much they were, but it is not expensive to kind of find them for you. You can also do the same with wood chips. If you're ever looking for wood chips, just try to find a local sawmill that they'll almost give them away for free sometimes if you catch them in the right spot. So down here we have a lot. It looks like a lot of mess, but it was Jerusalem artichokes, and we have hardy kiwis. And that's this vine that you see growing here. We have a water tank here for water collection, but this is growing up here onto our carport, or our packing house, as we call it. And the hardy kiwis are, sometimes they're called kiwi berries. They're really sweet. They're just really tiny, and they look like a kiwi, but you eat the whole thing. And yeah, they're just one of these things that can grow in our climate that, you know, we're utilizing our vertical space for that. We have a fence running all across the top of the carport. So all these vines that are sticking out, we'll weave them in and they'll start growing themselves in there. And it's just really nice greenery, and it just really looks so alive in the summertime. I really love it. One thing to note though is they do take sometimes 5 or 7 years to bear fruit, so be patient with them. Let's see what else we have here. I have just some flowers. Oh my goodness, there's a bald eagle. Oh, can I get him on there? Oh, where is he? I'm not sure if you can see him. He's not too high up. Oh man, we've seen this bald eagle around here a lot. I'm so happy he's out today. I don't know if I'm capturing him or not. All right, that was pretty special. He's just soaring around. There's a really big creek across the road behind my neighbor's house, and they love to go fishing down there. We see bald eagles all the time, and you know what? I see 2 bald eagles. This is incredible, but they're so high up, I don't think I'd ever be able to show you. It's a it's a like a juvenile. Oh, can you see it right here now? Yeah, that's the adult, and then there's a juvenile also flying around with it that doesn't have the fully white tail and head yet. Oh man, that's special, isn't it? Okay, so as we move here, when we moved in, it was very straight. They had manicured it so it were a lawn, and that's what we had to work with. We're trying to respect how it's growing alongside. In this bed, there are a lot of comfrey or boneset. It's a herb, a medicinal herb that's really good for sprains and broken bones. Yes, happy spring. And it also is another pollinator friendly plant. It grows really giant leaves, and it grows a taproot that breaks down and goes really deep into the soil, bringing up lots of minerals that other plants can't really use. So sometimes it's used as something that's called a green manure. So you pull off the leaves and then you set them in the garden to decompose. So the nutrients and the minerals that were way down in the earth are now brought to the surface and then readily available for plants that have more surface roots to eat. So we like to keep a lot of that around. I also have a lot of daffodils here, just because I had a lot of bulbs, and the more the merrier, and they always make more every year. So why not split and just have flowers everywhere? This is an old kale bed. It was an experiment to see how it would go uncovered over the winter. A lot of it, but it's actually starting to come back to life now. I mean, nearly all winter. It's called chickweed, and it is edible. It's one of our favorites, actually. It's so succulent. And we can eat that raw in salads, or you can saute that. And we do it both ways. You can add it to soup. You can put it in your smoothies. It's actually relatively sweet for a green. Any of the greens that grow in the colder weather, or that were exposed to cold weather, are usually a little sweeter than those that grow in the summertime, where they can get bitter from the heat. We also have elderberry bush. I know you can't really see it right here, but another medicinal. You can use the flowers and the berry sort of thing. The birds also really like them, so just be aware of that if you're trying to save them for yourself. Know that the birds really like to take their share from it. So just something to be aware of. We also have a little bridge that just goes across here, so we can access that may be a big blackberry patch over here that runs like the whole way of the creek. They're half cultivated, they're a bigger berry, but there's also the wild ones, and they grow just as prolific. They're just not as large of a berry. But man, the children and I picked just from this patch right here. It's not too big. It's just all this area right here. Goes back a little bit, and then it comes up here of some. Probably, I don't know, over 20 pints for sure. It was a lot. All right. We also have an herb bed up here that I try to say is my these trucks. There's a fruit tree going in here, but we also have echinacea. We have lamb's ears, which is actually like nature's Band-Aid. You can put it on as like a sterile pad on a wound, or just something that's open that you don't want bothered with. You can tie it off with like a little piece of grass, or even if you wanted to use medical tape, that's fine. It also is absorbent, so if you do have a bleed, it does absorb that. We also have some mint and oregano. We have thyme growing in here. We have sage, and we do a lot of marigolds too in here, sunflowers, other medicinal plants such as calendula. That's a really easy one to grow from seed, and it comes back every year from its seed. It's not a perennial. You just leave the dead heads on again. I also have some locust slugs here. Locust takes a long time to rot, so they're really good if you can get a hold of any of it to make the edges of your garden beds. They're also really good for making bows, and my husband really likes making bow and arrows, so they're just sitting out here hanging out until he has time to deal with that. Let me walk around this way. How are you guys doing so far? Am I going too fast? There's just so much that I want to show you. I don't want to slow down. Okay, so here I showed you that this picture is in my it was in my PowerPoint presentation. This is just it in wintertime. It might not look quite as magical, but I do leave all these plants growing there. Just to, if they can reseed themselves and just keep all the organic matter here in the soil. We also have an area which is right here for any any like plant waste that we do pull out that can't go directly in the compost. So this gives habitat to different ground animals such as mice. In the summertime when it gets warmer, it'll bring good habitat for garter snakes, and they actually do a really good job on eating slugs and other insects that like to eat your vegetables and your berries. So you really want to keep this habitat around. You don't just want to get rid of it. Now, some people might think this is an eyesore, but it actually does have a purpose. I do have a few branches here that we're pruning from the fruit trees that they'll get wood chipped, but they're just sitting there hanging out for now. Just climbing over the kids' sandbox right here. We have them play right in the middle of the garden. So we also have all these tarps out. Now we absolutely do not grow in plastic. I do not believe in that, but we had just prepped all the beds and they were calling for a lot of rain, and I really didn't want to lose my soil on there, so we covered them to protect it. But it's also another way to help manage weeds before the season grows. I really do not recommend growing in plastic because plastic does leach chemicals into the ground. There's lots of studies out there that can go into that more deeper on like a chemical level, but yeah, we just do not use it for any other purpose except just to protect things that really need protected. Ooh, and we are getting some buds on some plum trees. Check this out. These plum trees are 7 years old. It was one of the first things we planted here when we got here, and they make a really nice archway here of flowers in the springtime, and then of leaves over the summertime. And as you can see, we have really close neighbors. We just have a yard like everybody else. We're not, you know, down a dirt road where nobody can see. We're really here on the road so people can really engage with us and see us. And I do hope that has an impact on people. Let me go up this way. So this, again, it's kind of a shame. We should do this in the summertime again so you can really get a clue of what's going on here. But here's another bed. I call this our overflow bed. Ooh, let me get out of this and see if I can adjust that. Can you see that? Yeah, okay. So this bed is an overflow bed. So it gets planted with, when we're planting, let's say lettuce or kale, and we have maybe like an odd number of plants left, and they're really healthy plants. We don't want to do away with them. We just plant them here to grow. But we also have some blueberries. Then all these little stumps and all this this waste here is all golden raspberries and the fall bearing red raspberry. Again, it creates habitat for birds to come in. They like that denseness, and the berries are delicious, in case you didn't know. So we have a bench here too, just to hang out and sit and watch the birds. We do put up bird feeders, and we feed all year round, and that really keeps them around and knows that we're here to help them, or at least on some level, I hope. And here again, looks like a tangly mess, but we have gooseberries. If you've never had a gooseberry, they grow prolifically here. They are an amazing plant. They do have thorns, so watch out. But they kind of taste like a blueberry, kind of taste like maybe a grape that's a little bit more tart. But they have the skin that's more like a grape, like kind of pops when you eat it. And some people say it's like an old-fashioned fruit, like their grandma may have had a plant or a few plants of them. And you really don't need a lot to produce a lot, which is great because it's great for small spaces. I've even seen people grow them in pots on their porch, but I can't really tell you about that because I just put them in the ground and they do just fine. I believe, I want to say there's some native plants, native gooseberries here, but I know that some of the ones we have are Russian natives, just because it's the variety that we could get a hold of, which you'll see that sometimes, even though things are native, there might be like a cousin that's the same, that might be just a different variety that does far better than the native ones do. So you got to kind of make that judgment call on what really works best for you. And unfortunately, you might not realize it until you already have these things and it's going, but that's all a part of the process of doing it. We also have currants back here, which grow in the same kind of shrub style. We have black currants and we have red currants, and they're great for vitamin C. Black ones are super nutrient dense. We also have rhubarb starting to come up, if you can see right, and it won't be too long. These like to grow really fast, so this whole bed is all, that's just fine, but in the winter time you chop it up and you freeze it in here to make, you know, like a pie or rhubarb crisp, or put it in your smoothies to make it sweeter, but they are very tart, so just be aware. Oh, jet's going over now. Everybody's visiting us today. We're on the flight path for where the A-10s fly through. So there's usually 2 at a time. So if you hear another one, that's what they are. We're so out here. Everybody just wants to see us. These right here that you see, these are cold hardy peaches. They bloom later than standard peach that you would like find in a store. Last year we had such late frost though that their blossoms even got hit, and I am starting to see now that they're ready. If you can see, is that focusing on that? I don't even, maybe pull it back. So these are little flower buds coming in. To prune them just to keep them manageable. But if you're really if you're a little bit nervous about there's species of fruit, you go out on your own because there's so many
It looks like she froze again. Just bear with us.
Can you hear me again?
Yes, you're back.
All right. I'm sorry about that. My internet dropped. That's another thing. We don't have cell phone service out here, so we're all based on the lovely Wi-Fi internet that we have blasting. So it's the internet, you know. All right. I do want to show you this pond back here. I do have a few more minutes. Yes. Okay. So this pond that we're creating back here. Oh my goodness, I didn't even check it this morning. There are beautiful ice crystals on it. Oh my goodness, it looks so good. I don't know if you can see that through the camera or not. It's very feathery. It's really beautiful. So this is our larger pond. Now it's a bit of an experiment because we do have an intern working on it here to kind of put whatever kind of plants that she thinks would do well in here. We'll put some lily pads in here, and we really want to try to attract a lot of frogs and other aquatic animals, especially amphibians, and seeing if they will. Yes, thanks everyone for your patience. Oh my goodness. So we're really trying to see what we can really create here and what will come to us. We have some elderberries also growing in here. And then all in this mulchway will be different herbs and different natives that provide a lot of leaf cover and places to hide for these animals. We'll probably have some fish in there just because I think it would be really cool. We will have to probably put in an aerator or some sort of, we do have a waterfall set up right now to create its own natural aeration of the water, but if there's no air in if there's no oxygen in the water, it kind of gets overtaken by algae or duckweed, and it makes it really hard for other animals to live. But something else to note is frogs like to lay their eggs in still water. So you don't want it to be super agitated, but you do want to have some sort of agitation going on. So if you see these rocks right here, this is part of the filtration system. And then this is part of the pond, kind of where these cement blocks are. They were just to hold down a bed roller. They have no purpose. A bed roller is something that just like compacts the soil for you, so it's easier to plant seeds. And they are just out of the way in there right now. So here's our cattails. So this will filter anything that comes off of these beds. These beds, again, are all covered because they're trying to be protected and hide from the rain that I was really afraid of. And the wind, oh my gosh, the wind has been terrible. Don't even get me started. This actually we dig out every year, and then we put all this soil, it goes back on these beds, just so we're gathering and we don't lose nutrients, but it's all right here. It doesn't actually get lost. It just is in a different place. We also just have like a nice retaining wall just for aesthetics of stone, and most of this stone we actually pulled out of the garden. So you kind of utilize the resources that you're given, but we do live on the base of a mountain, so we do kind of have stones that we have to pull out every now and then, but well, I guess more than every now and then. There's a lot of stones. So then we just have a little pathway here just to keep things looking nice. We always say that it's an art project just as much as it is a gardening project. Again, we like to live back here, so we really like things to be aesthetic as well as useful. So this is a better view of the pond. You can see, so the water starts up here, and then that's where the water has the ability to pool and create like a pond habitat. So this will be more of the wetland, so not solid water all the time, just moist. And then we have the pond, which is standing water or slightly moving water. Now, so we also had a big problem with it flooding down here by the barn because the water would just come right through the yard and just run right into the barn. So now that we've done this, we haven't had any issues with that. So again, it's about finding these problems that your land has and what's unique to you, and then really being creative and finding out ways that you can solve these problems on your own, because you can do that. You just have to observe and put the time in. There's also an overflow right here. So in the event that we do have flooding, so instead of having it just overflow the sides of the pond and destroy all the plants that we have growing around it. We just have a little overflow that's, again, a lot of rocks for filtration, and then it just comes out here to the yard and has time to sink in. We haven't really had too many issues with that, but knock on wood, I really hope I didn't just jinx myself. Yeah, so just really pay attention to how water moves on your land, because that's really going to be an indicator of where you should plant things and where you should absolutely not plant things. Like if you have like a side of your house that's really windy, it's probably not a good place to put annuals that are really delicate, because they're just going to get destroyed over and over again. Another thing is, now I know this is foodscaping, but another thing to note is it's easier to spend time out in your garden when there's places for you to just hang out in. So we have a little fire circle here. It has all these hoses because we are trying to get the pond going. So we also have some benches, we have chairs, we also bring out a grill and we hang out back here. And this is really our lifestyle. This is a part of us. We are really trying to have that interaction with our land, and you know, we are just a part of, we want to be a part of the landscape just as much as everything else is. Just really quick, I want to show you just a little bit of the drainage I'm talking about, and if you don't have anything about gardens. So this is frozen right now, but it is just seeping out of the ground. It's springtime and we get a lot of precipitation, and you just kind of see it like this. So that's our bed. This is our pathway. Pathways are notorious for being like this. Some ways to deal with this problem, sometimes people use mulch, but what I find is mulch just eventually gets stuck in there and it compacts the soil really hard, and not many things can grow in compacted soil, so I like to try to just keep it dirt, and that way if there are weeds or anything popping up, it's really easy to hoe them. When it's just dirt, if it's mulch, it kind of gets in the way. So be careful with where you put your mulch. It's a really good idea if you have a really bad weed problem, but where we are now, it just doesn't work for us. So let's take you over here. Anybody have any questions? Is anybody ready to get going on their homestead? We definitely wanted here was grapes. Well, my husband especially grew up with a neighbor who had a really, really old Concord grape in the cornfields, and then just running out to grab a bunch of grapes and going back in and thinking that was just such a fond memory. And Concord grapes are one of our favorites. So we have a whole line. Sorry if that was too fast. This whole line is Concord grapes. I think there is actually one plant that is Catawba. Am I still with you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, yep, you're back.
Okay. Okay, so I'm not going to go over there because it seems like the Wi-Fi is not so good over there. But so we're just going to see all these white hoops you see. There are greens growing under them right now, and I'll show you. This one is spinach. We planted this one in, oh, it may have been, I think it was October. And we did get some harvest last year out of it, but it still grows all winter long. We actually had it covered for a long time, but you can see that it just is ready to go right now. And this is not greenhouse grown. We can grow spinach all year in Pennsylvania. You just cover it up so the snow doesn't bother it. But it is just tender and sweet. It's so succulent. It's better than anything that you would get in a store. So just keep in mind that a lot of people say that you need a greenhouse to grow things, and that's not always true. Maybe you need a greenhouse to grow tomatoes or something that needs that hot heat. But these greens do just fine, and we've got a whole bunch of them. Just I would suggest keeping them covered though, because deer and other animals really like it too. So just keep that in mind. And this isn't even, I'm not even sure if this spinach is a cold hardy spinach. It's just like your typical spinach. Now, it doesn't grow very well in the summertime. It doesn't like the heat, but it does love the cold. Again, all this green here, that's all chickweed. 100% edible. One of the first greens that grows on its own that you can eat. It's fantastic. We let it grow as a weed, but we're gonna actually take this out because we're gonna put some blueberry bushes in here. This is a whole line of blueberry bushes, and we just have some plants to replace them with having them for ourselves, because blueberries are one of our non-berries that we absolutely love, but the cold is getting some of our plants. So we're gonna have to maybe cover them up or just mulch them more heavily. If you are in a little colder region, so we're in this valley here that gets a little bit colder temperatures, especially colder than the Cumberland Valley does. So we need to realize that and protect our plants from that. It seems like between us and Chambersburg, you got at least a week or two on us on blooms and strawberries and all the best stuff. Okay, well, that's everything that's probably worth showing you right now. If anybody has any questions, specific questions on what you can do to get started, I do want to let you know too that before, like something like this bed here where I showed you that has the fall bearing and the golden raspberries, we did start with wine berries and wild blackberries, or not blackberries, black raspberries, that we just dug up from neighbors' yards or that grew as weeds, and then we cultivated them. So if your budget is really low, that's a great way to get started on having your own plants. Another way to get some lower priced native plants would be through the Penn State Extension. They have another program, and they actually do a garden sale. Look on their website, it'll definitely be on there, but that's a great way to get some planting to get going on your own. Does anybody have any particular questions? Here, I'll give you some shots at the landscape. So this mountain, oh no, plant extension sale for 2021. Oh, that's so sad. Now I'm sad. Oh goodness. Okay, so this mountain is not the mountain we actually sit on. This is called the Tuscarora Mountain. If you can look down past these trees, this is the gap in the Tuscarora Mountain. So that's where the Tuscarora Creek goes through. And then behind us is the Conacajig Mountain. So that's the mountain that we're actually on. And up top there, we have our chickens and our other gardens up there. Oh, you know what? I did want to show you the maple trees. Okay. I completely forgot. So I'm not going to take you right up there because you're not going to hear me with the creek roaring, little stream roaring. So this might not look like a lot to some people, but most of these trees up here are sugar maple trees, especially these big ones that you see like right here, right here. There's a lot up here. So we only tap, how many taps do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 taps in, which is not a lot. And we can easily get gallons of syrup from them. Now remember, it takes 40 gallons of maple water to make 1 gallon of syrup. So that is a lot of buckets. And I really suggest using 5-gallon buckets and buying yourself some tubing to get it in there. If that's something that you're interested in. It's a really fun thing to do, even if you don't get a lot, just to kind of do it yourself and see how good it is, really. I kind of surprise myself on every year. Even drinking the maple water, the sap that comes straight out of the tree is like drinking the purest water and the coldest water that you've ever had. It's something special in itself. So if you have area to plant taller growing trees, sugar maples is a great option for that, because it's just a tree that is so giving, and it does give a lot of leaves for compost, and it they're a straight tree, so they're not too shady. They can be shady when they get really big, but they don't have these billowing branches like an oak tree might, that would shade a lot of your garden. Just keep in mind that when you do tap maple trees, you always want to tap on the south facing side, or the direction that's sort of south that a lot of the branches are growing out of, because that's the side that's going to send up the most water to get up to the leaves, which makes sense. It needs to go to where the branches are, so south facing is where most of the branches grow, so that makes sense. Any other questions? I can't take you up there, but we do have a little compost area up here. We turn it over a little bit, but we're not we don't manage our compost too well, but it's always great to put your food scraps in your own little bin. You don't have to take care of it as much as you think you do, unless you really want to get rid of your food waste fast. So don't be intimidated, just have a designated area from it. 5 minutes. Thank you, Chris. Any other questions? Ooh, I should take you down. I should take you down and show you the solar. But here is some more elderberries. They do like growing near the water. That's why we have them here. Just naturally they do. So if you do happen to have a wetter area on your land, consider growing the elderberries. There is a lot of different varieties, and they're getting more and more popular, so they're probably easier to find. You can just see this mountain creek behind me. It's just gushing. So if there's anything that I want you to take away from this, it's that you don't need to start on a lot. We were very ambitious when we first got started, because we had big hopes in mind. But you can start with just a few pots on your porch, a little garden bed that you have out back. Nothing is too small. You can always start somewhere. There was a question about spinach. Oh, there's questions in here. Oops, I was not paying attention. Oh, whoops. Okay. Do you keep your spinach covered all winter, or do you remove the cover on warmer days in winter? You can remove it when it's warmer, but it's just kind of one more thing that I forget to cover back up before it gets cold again. It certainly won't kill them. It might make them a little bit less tender, but it is just fine for it. In fact, we never actually started covering it up until we really started to have deer problems, because the deer will really find that anything green in the winter and just totally eat like a lawnmower, just eat everything that they possibly can. They even, and then once they come in, they'll even like eat off all the little buds on the trees that are starting, and it's a problem. So I just try to keep it out of sight, out of mind for them. Oh, nice maple water information. Cool. Oh, I want to show you our ugly tree that we have growing here. I can't go over to it. I'll probably lose you, but it's this bush right here. Right here. It's an old arborvitae that was never maintained, but it is excellent bird habitat. So don't judge him. Okay, I think that wraps it up. If anybody has any questions later on, even if it's a month from today, even if it's a year from today, please ask questions. I'm here to help. I can, email is probably the best way, or come talk to us at a farmer's market. We just want to spread the word on how great homesteading is, and growing your own plants. So that's all. Thanks guys for tuning in.